Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my real spiritual reading. I am reading the literatures written by Avatar Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba is the Kali Yuga Avatar Purusha, who is also called Avatar because he is the incarnation of the Kali Yuga. So he has written a tremendous amount of books, which is nothing more than any other spiritual epics in the world. So this Meher Baba's book have I have so many books in that. I today what I'm reading is a life at its best. That is Meher Baba. So the book is like this. You can see, you can buy and read, but reading is not that difficult, but understanding and one with God is important here. In my own experience and in my own idea, if I cannot make that as my statement, this is I have to make the statement written by the 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 soul and the Paramatma himself, right? In the pathway of realization. This is one way that I can say. So yesterday I was reading about something called God, Man, and the God Man. God, Man, and the God Man. Today I am continuing some new stuff about that in the life at its best. So there is a header called God knows not to God knows self. So what is that means? God knows not, comma, to God knows self. As ordinary man, when God knows not is God, for all time his imagination remains the universe and self remains the imaginary. Very good statement here. So if I rephrase that, as ordinary man, just like me and you, or anybody who may be ordinary, means it is not a working class people or anybody who say that the low caste people or the people who are uneducated or illiterate people, not like that. Ordinary man is anybody who don't know about the real spirituality, or they don't know anything about the truth. They don't know anything about the absolute. Still they worship God, prayer, all that doesn't mean an ordinary man here. So ordinary man, when God knows not, he is God. When God knows not, he is God. So normally ordinary man cannot recognize the soul human who born as I am God state. So it is just like that he is God. Ordinary may not express Meher Baba is God. I am still, since from my life is around 40 now. So in this years of 40, I entered Meher Baba journey at the age of 17, I guess, and I was in high school. So from that day, I just was doing, trusting that whoever gives us good, life living understanding. So just I was taking him as a perfect master. I was not saying God, or I was, in my visual, everything was God. But here, to agree this man as God is sometimes it is imaginary. So for all time, his imagination remains the universe and self remains the imaginary. Self means myself, individual self, remains imaginary. So the universe itself is imagination. His imagination is also universe, like whole universe is existing in front of him. It remains universe as universe, but self remains imaginary. Okay, as the perfect one, when man becomes God and ceases to remain anything else for all time and beyond time, his imagination disappears and he remains self-conscious. The statement is little bit, you know, it's tough to understand. This part is always tough to understand. As the perfect one, so perfect one meaning the soul who is one with God, who have a infinite self-consciousness. He is the conscious of this body and he is the conscious of God himself. So that is the self-realized soul as a perfect one. When man becomes God and ceases to the remain anything else, when man becomes God and ceases to remain anything else for all time and beyond time. So ceases means here in this case to chase or you can just chase or cheese. Yeah, ceases to. So let me make a dictionary meaning for that word. So let us be very specific what the word says. Cease remains means to stop, like cease means to stop, bring or come to an end. So a perfect man, he have ability to stop everything. For example, cease to remain anything else. So he can stop anything for all time and beyond this time. His imagination disappears and he remains self-conscious. So the power of the person that, for example, in the entire incarnation history, who made any miracles here? Does Buddha made any miracles? Does Rama made any miracles? Does Krishna made any miracles? Does Muhammad made any miracles? Like miracles is one of the seize the world, like to stop anything like that. And the imagination disappears because he have that power. So that way he remains self-conscious, the perfect one. As a perfect master, when man becomes God and knows he has been man for all the time, his creation remains imagination and he remains self-conscious. As a perfect master, when man becomes God and knows he has been man. So when we lose our consciousness, so we forget this body. So when one forget this body, he become God consciousness, God conscious. When the body again, the consciousness retains back to his normal, when he was in the creation, when he was creating the entire universe, that he was unconscious of this body and he returns back to that and again he remains that he was a man. For all time his creation remains imagination. For example, when he was in the conscious of God and he created, and that becomes imagination to man because he was a he was bound in the self-conscious, but he was not in the human body that time when he was created. So when he becomes I am man, then it becomes an imagination. So God himself who takes this consciousness, he becomes imagination and he remains self-conscious. Then once he drop down back to the man when he was in the God conscious and back to the human normal man, then that becomes a self-conscious, conscious of this body. Similarly, the God knows not to God knows self. Okay, the God knows not, but God knows self. So that is the meaning it is giving full explanation. As God man, so the perfect one, now it is stepping into the God man. As God man, when God becomes man and knows he is God, for the time being his imagination becomes everything, and for all time and beyond time he remains self-conscious. So the proclamation, once the man becomes God man, so once he becomes a God man, then he realizes that the man becomes a man and he knows he is God. When his mind was fully imagination, then he returned back to man and he becomes a God man, and he said that he just realizes that I am God. So that is how it is going to be for the time being, and his imagination becomes everything, because when he is in this body and he is having the conscious of that I am God, then he becomes the owner of this creation, so that he is completely one and all and everything and all time and beyond all time. He remains self-conscious of God, that I am God. I created this. I created the entire universe like that. So that is God. Very important understanding about the God knows not to God knows self. Hope you guys understand the statement. Yeah? So many things, guys. We have so many things to understand. If you stuck in the entire, the illusion of this Kali Yuga, because what we see nowadays, what is called as the movies and the technology driven, it is all confusing people to understand and realize God. It all confusing, right? Just simply saying people stick to the modern culture and they forget about the ancient culture, and they forget to realize and listen to also. That is common factor in the Kali Yuga, as it is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, while in the sixth sloka, I think it was stated that the Kali Yuga is completely undergone the bad thing, like it is completely dropped, it is completely misleaded. So the Kali Yuga, because of all bad thoughts, always quarrel, fighting, many things, if we can see that the whole world is completely in the Kali Yuga because of corruption happening. So that means you have to understand the basic about the soul, God, basic about how the man becomes God and conscious of the God himself in the man and conscious of the perfection of the God in the man. So these are all the stages. When you forget, then you become God. So it is also not easy, but also easy. Okay. So let us step into the topic 2, the master and his role. So in the universe nowadays, you may heard of the perfect master, Sadguru, Mahapurusha, Yogi, Sadhu, Sajjana. Like you can give all literate people, who all learned people, who are learned the Vedanta, who are learned the spiritual background, who understand the constant eternality of the God, all that, those will become the masters here. In this case, master is the perfect one here. The perfect means it is completely different word for masters. So what is about the master and is the role? What is his role? Has he become master of something, right? So not like a master of engineering, master of arts, master of science. Those are all some superficial education, but the spiritual education has a different meaning for masters here. So in that role, the subtopic here is deathless living. Deathless living means no death, no mortality. Mortality is completely immortal, also called immortal state of God. Amara Jivi. God is Amara, means it is forever. He never dies. So what is that statement gives us here? Life does not end with death. So normally we have the assumption that when the body dies, the life ends. So because that we have our consciousness that the body is the end of the life. But when you look at the millions of lives on the planet Earth, right, the life itself is individuality, and it is for everyone have the life, right? So it is not that easy statement. So let me go a little bit beyond that. Life does not end with death. Survival after death is as true as death after life. Survival after death is true as death after life. So death means the body dies, but after death, what happens? If the conscious soul, example here, the Avatar Meher Baba. So Avatar Meher Baba, when he was alive, and when after his dropped body, right? After the body drops also, pilgrims go to the place where Meher Baba born, Meher Baba was walked, his dust, everywhere people go there and just they feel that Meher Baba with them. Even I felt in one time, 7 time I visited Meher Baba Ashrama in Ahmednagar, the tomb like Amar Tithi. There, when you go there, definitely you feel individuality. You feel very, very individuality, and there is no bondage will appear there. So you will feel free that all you are freed from all the worldly intentions. So that that is the what is called the maintenance or the survival after death. When the soul, when the author promises the people that the survival with this life and without the life, then he will manage it. Only he can manage when he is a perfect master. Like to live in order to die, or to die in order to survive, would be a poor population indeed. A poor population indeed. So this is to live in order to die. So live in means you live forever, but one day he has to die, and die in order to survive. If you survive, that Meher Baba said that if you survive after death, then it is better to die. You can survive after death. So it would be poor population, poor proposition indeed. Okay, that's simple thing, like it is called as a very low proposition indeed. Hmm? The death that follows life is not a lifelessness. The death follows life is not a lifelessness. Means if the death is also drops the body and it follows the lifelessness is not a lifelessness. nor is life after death is deathlessness. So life after death, you cannot even imagine. If you are perfect one, you can imagine what is my next life if after death. In the present life, if you understand that life, what is called the death follows the life is not a lifelessness. Death follows the life, right? So our life is completely going with the life. That is not lifelessness. Not nor is life after death is lifeless, deathlessness. So that means either way, if you live or die, die is not a deathlessness. Life with this body is not a lifelessness. Life is a positive manifestation of the true existence which negative death cannot extinguish. So life is a positive manifestation of the true existence. So life is a positive means that you may not mix up with what you call a positive thoughts or positive way of living. If you say that, then those are all also have life here. For example, here is existence, which negative death cannot be existent or extinguished. Okay, so life is a positive manifestation of the true existence. True existence is Paramatma, which negative death cannot extinguishes. So if the life you have life, then that has a positively you can express and experience, and you can say that God is and God present, God here, God there. But without the life, then that is not extinguished. To end the ceaseless succession of lives and deaths, death itself has to be annihilated in life. To end the ceases means to stop the death. To if you how can we stop the death? It is not a solution to end the ceaseless succession of life and death. Lives and death means, so to stop that, okay, we can stop the death or we can stop the life, either way, like stop ceaseless without stopping. Death itself has to be annihilated in life. So if you want to stop means, that means there should be a death also with your life. On annihilation death in life by completely freeing consciousness of all illusions, man becomes God in the naked truth of his own true existence. So the death itself is causing a what is called samadhi, right? Samadhi means the body exists, but your mind does not exist there. So your mind forget your body. At the end of the day, once the body dies, that means this body forgets, and the mind is completely free from all the illusions. It is nothing that becomes a God and naked truth, his own existence, right? That means without the body, he becomes one with truth. He remains infinitely conscious of God, irrespective of his keeping or dropping the gross, subtle, and mental bodies. Just as man remains man, whether he is dressed or undressed. Right? Human, yeah, is a man. Man is again, even if your outlook may be whatever you dressed or undressed, but he remains man. Similarly, so if you want to keep the gross, so if you want to be conscious of God, then irrespective of his, your keeping or dropping the gross means your the lower part of the body on subtle prana of the body, and the mental means that the memory of the body. So that remains when a man, whether he is dressed or undressed, right? So all the three forms of gross conscious, subtle conscious, and mental conscious. So in the God Speaks, I read about more evolution about that consciousness. There it comes all about what do you call the the states of consciousness: gross, subtle, and mental conscious. So there we will get more understanding what is the gross soul, gross body, gross world is for, and what is the subtle world, subtle body, subtle sphere is for, and mental body, mental sphere, mental world, like that. So they will analyze that in the next session. So let me stop it here. So please guys, you can share the video with your friends. I don't see participants anyway because I am still working on how to publish this publicly, and I can see some participants. I'm working on that. So once I make a good platform, I will come up with a good endpoint which can be visible to the entire world, so anybody can join and ask questions. So that way, interactive in this spirituality gives more understanding. So please share, like, and comments, ask questions, so that way we can understand more realistically. So we can come out of this, the entire Kali Yuga, corruptions, unwanted things, all pains, all that will be released once you understand what is the true state of God consciousness. Okay, thank you. We'll see you next time, tomorrow maybe. Okay, I'm ending my live.